Welcome to the Weekends with Bernie podcast. I'm Tom Everett Scott, taking you on a father and son journey through a season of fantasy football. Bernie Gallagher is a retired sports reporter and bartender, teaming up with his son, Jason, a composer in Los Angeles. They will attempt to conquer the league I created. They will have to overcome injuries, trash talk, heartbreaking loss, and that's just between the two of them. Join us as we talk fathers and football on Weekends with Bernie. Hello, listener. If you're not watching this on YouTube, you're missing out on a very flattering camera angle on us gentlemen.
Right. Well, it being a strike, there's not a lot of camera operators around, including...
Au contraire, mon frère. I think there's probably so many camera operators.
They don't want to cross the line and
available
work for our podcast. Though.
Oh, right. The Struck podcast. Hi, Bernie. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good. Are you enjoying doing the podcast?
No.
Why not?
Oh no! Right now, I'm recuperating from an illness.
What's the illness?
Giantitis.
You have giantitis.
Yeah.
I think I saw a picture of that in a medical book when I was in high school.
Right. It's something like not being able to tackle a block.
Do you think that's the number one problem they have?
Well, number one of many numbers. Yeah. They would be very good if they're playing flag football. I noticed that.
Because they get close and they touch the hips.
Yeah. I mean, they grab and everything. They never take the guy down. Like you wouldn't be able to do that.
Did you play flag football back in the day then?
I've played flag football, yes.
Were you good?
I also coached a flag football team.
You coached a flag football team?
Yes.
I didn't know they had coaches.
Of course they did.
Oh.
I had a good team. I had guys from University of Alabama, Minnesota.
You drafted a flag football team?
No, those guys all worked for the place that I coached.
Oh.
Some pretty good recruiting.
Yeah. I had an all state running back.
Wow. Were there injuries?
Yeah, you got a couple of strains and pulls.
Yeah.
Were you a player coach?
No, not at that point. No, I was just a coach. Yeah, there are teams from.
What position did you play when you played?
I was a receiver.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I always thought I'd be a good receiver, like slot guy.
Yeah. Well, that's all. When you play sandlot football, that's tackle without any equipment. I played that. That's where
when you were younger.
Yeah, I dislocated a shoulder doing that.
You did?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
It happened when I was playing like a linebacker or something like that, and there was a big run up the middle, and I was caught, and it dislocated.
Wow.
Was it hanging out of the socket? No, it was just look. I mean, I don't know. I couldn't move it. I had to go to the hospital and find out what the deal was. But you know.
Okay. All right, let's bring him in.
What? Who, the special guest? That's enough dislocations?
Yeah, we have a dislocated shoulder specialist here who can tell us what the proper procedure would have been back in the 50s.
We've located our guest.
Yeah.
Dislocated our shoulder. Located our guest.
Well done, Jason.
Let's bring him in. Play the music.
Okay. So we have the other half of the other lovely co-host who kind of got me into being friends with actual fantasy analysts. We have this great writer and hilarious person online, and just a font of information and outrageous takes. Denny Carter. Denny, welcome.
Yeah, that's me. That's a nice summary, Tom. I appreciate that. And my takes are for some reason gaining a lot of traction on Elon's site today. So
is that true?
I have a Patriot take on the site today about the Patriot Way, which I'm sure maybe Tom you'd be interested in. And
I am.
It's not going over well. I will say.
I think that what do you run, like 50-50 on things that go well and don't?
Yeah, about that. But honestly, if anything gets outside of my immediate football circle on Twitter, on X, whatever, you're going to get like a torrent of hateful comments. Like that's just the way it goes.
More hateful than stick to sports.
No, because I do right. I'm sticking to sports. I'm actually trying, Tom, very hard to stick to sports,
stuck to
and
sports.
I still get people saying, "Shut up."
Okay, got it. But Patriot Way, it sounds like maybe a little twist on something political.
Well,
there?
I mean, basically what I said. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to like throw the
No, let's jump
conversation
in.
No,
here,
let's go.
But you know, what I said was, let me just find it. I said I never thought I'd say this, but the Patriot Way was just Tom Brady playing at an unspeakably high level for a very long time. There was nothing else to it. That's why the Patriot Way doesn't work anywhere else.
That's true.
And you know why I was thinking of Josh McDaniels, like the fact that he has now utterly failed completely in two head coaching spots, and Matt Patricia failed as a head coach, and Joe Judge failed as a head coach, and Bill Belichick has failed as a head coach without Tom Brady. So what was the secret ingredient? It was just the greatest quarterback of all time.
It was Brady. It was only Brady.
Yeah, because he left there and won a Super Bowl.
He won a
with
Super Bowl
the
with
Buccaneers.
the
It was kind of obvious.
Yes.
Yes. Well, I mean, yeah. Okay, that's not that hot a take, right?
It's apparently very hot because the Patriots sometimes had good defenses. So that's one thing I'm being told.
Sure. I always think it takes a quarterback to win a Super Bowl, and that and you could say all defense and the coach and it's a great team, but if I look right to the quarterback every time, and if it's not somebody who is just remarkable, I don't think they're going to do it. I mean, 99% of the time, sure, there's an outlier.
Are you talking about Jeff Hostetler?
Yes, Jeff Hostetler did it for the Giants in '91, and I knew it. I knew it was going to happen.
All right, so Denny, more of a proper introduction to you, I guess. You're currently writing for Roto-World and NBC Sports Edge.
Yeah, right. And just NBC Sports. We actually folded the whole thing into NBCSports.com.
Beautiful. Wonderful. I love reading your stuff there. You're such a good writer. You started out as a journalist, sort of like Bernie here. Yeah. Right, Bernie, you were a journalist?
Yeah, Bernie was a sports reporter for a long time.
Okay, cool.
Editor.
And before you got into fantasy writing, did you ever cover sports as a journalist out of college?
I did. So every guy who went into journalism school at the University of Maryland, every guy wanted to be Tony Kornheiser or Michael Wilbon. Okay, this is in the early 2000s. It's when those two guys were the hottest sports writers in the world. And so we just thought, okay, like I'm here to get a degree so that I can just be Tony Kornheiser, right? Right. And you didn't realize that there was a lot of grinding to do before you could get to that level. And my grinding included covering high school baseball in Prince George's County, Maryland. And boy, did I cover a bunch of games. And I really liked it, actually. I was really into it. I was basically making no money, but I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, I mean,
could be worse, right?
You're doing what you love, and it's I mean, what a great setting, baseball. What high school baseball? What's not to like?
Yeah, right. And the players got to know me, and I took stats in my notebook, because there were no collected stats, like nobody was keeping stats except for the basic scorebook that you have in like your co-rec softball league, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
right.
But so I would keep stats and as accurately as possible. And, so even back then, I was very much into the numbers.
I love that. Yeah, Bernie, same. Maybe you guys have a similar come up because Bernie used to do that for my little league team.
Oh, really?
He used to. We'd have like every game you come in, there's a bit typed up sheet. I'm 12 years old, and it's like I know my on base percentage. It was great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, wow. It was really good. It's the only team we had that with, but
that's really cool. Baseball is such a great numbers sport. It's so conducive to numbers. I used to rally the neighborhood kids for wiffle ball games like throughout the summer when I was 9, 10, 11 years old, and I would keep stats for everybody, and they would want to see, hey, no, I had 12 homers today, not 11. You gotta
you love when you play and when you're playing, you love the numbers. You want to have the best numbers.
Was that the transition? I mean, your love of numbers, you're having that kind of like tendency to keep track of stats. Did that just become a fantasy thing?
Man, I guess it did, Tom. I guess I've never given it a whole lot of thought, but I have tracked numbers for my entire life. I used to have this make-believe basketball league where it was like an imaginary league that I had in my head when I was 6 or 7 years old. And I would keep my stats, and I had a whole career arc, guys. And it was like, it actually turned out to be like LeBron, where I started with a team and I was traded away and I won some championships with some good guys. And then I came back to my home team and won another championship like he did with the Cavs.
Wow.
He's living your childhood dream.
Yeah,
I feel it feels a little freakish actually when I truly think about LeBron's career arc and the imaginary world I had with basketball. But anyway, I kept stats. I kept my stats throughout, my imaginary stats.
That's amazing. That is just, you're a savant, I guess, because to do that at such a young age, it's clearly a passion, but also what a brain. Wow. Being wasted on all these Patriot Way takes.
And and also, Tom, I struggled with math in school.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Well, obviously they were teaching you the wrong way because you had it. You just weren't soaking it in class.
Maybe.
That says a lot about, the way that math is taught in school and getting kids to do stuff that they're interested in doing. I mean, we could go on and on and on about that. Yeah. But anyway, so fascinating stuff. I mean, your relationship with it, I think it's similar to Bernie's with sports. I mean, that's how you got interested in fantasy as well, right? I mean, you were just...
because of you guys, actually, I got interested in fantasy. That's the only reason.
Well, before we came along, you were doing a fantasy league out of your restaurant.
Yeah, you were running all the numbers for that.
Yeah, well, that was a different story. It was a whole different...
You were a younger man.
Yeah.
Well, I mean...
Yeah,
that's a good point. I mean, because back then we did stuff like we'd check the stats in USA Today, and today you just have your phone, you have your app, you have all this high tech whirring of numbers. It's all voodoo to me how I can just watch it on TV and then just look at my phone and see my team either losing or dying. Speaking of which, so Denny, the two of these guys, the whole premise of this show was to track their fantasy team that they co-manage.
Okay.
And it's called Weekends with Bernie. We don't know which one came first, the team or the podcast.
It's hard to say.
But here it's hard to say.
It's hard to say.
But here we are. And so...
so we're midway, right, ish, through the season?
Yeah, if we get this episode out on time. It's week 9.
It's week 9, and we are in the middle of the pack. We're about 5th place, doing all right, getting some lucky numbers.
Who do you have?
We're running. We got Saquon in the first round.
It was a very Giants moment.
It was
for
a
them.
super homer pick. We're Giants fans. I thought it would make a romantic story if we could take Saquon in the first. And
no, you're not wrong about that. It would have been romantic.
It's still.
Did you take him over Eckler?
We did take him over Eckler, which kind of turned out not too terrible. Like Eckler missed some weeks, right?
That's true. Would you say that stands up now, Denny? Eckler versus Saquon?
Well, yes, but right this second. And with Daniel Jones going down to a season-ending knee injury and Eckler getting healthier, I think
it's tricky.
In 6 weeks, we'll be singing a different tune, probably.
It's tricky. Yeah. So,
Very possible. Okay.
We live and die by the Giants this season. But, being fans, so we went that way. And then we ended up with a few questionable picks. Otherwise, we have Olave, which turned out great. But we took Najee pretty early. And
I think they took some players that you hate. I mean, Najee being one of them.
Yeah, we have Trevor Lawrence at quarterback most weeks. Mike Evans turned out to be a nice little bonus.
You used to be a big Mike Evans fan, Denny. How do you feel about him now?
That's funny, Tom, that you remember that because I was constantly drafting Mike Evans,
and you were right.
And so I haven't been on Mike Evans recently, but his ADP dropped to like a silly level.
You had to take him
past summer, where if you went wide receiver heavy, which Tom knows that's how I draft, and if you go wide receiver heavy, you could get Evans as like your wide receiver 4. Okay, that's insane. So I did that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, because I think everyone is expecting him to just fall off, and he just doesn't. He always catches like at least 1,000 yards or whatever it is. Ridiculous number. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, he's fun. I mean, so that's who you guys have. I think what maybe you can help these guys with moving forward, since they have a low point total, but they are in the playoffs as we speak. Maybe helping them project some good streamers. They have a quarterback problem. They need to stream guys in the next couple weeks, and they also need to look forward to the playoffs and maybe line up some strength of schedule stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm up for it. Whatever you guys need. So you said you have Trevor Lawrence as your quarterback, right?
Trevor Lawrence and Jordan Love are our two on our roster currently.
So is it a one quarterback league?
It's a one quarterback. Yeah.
Okay. I would highly recommend dropping Jordan Love and picking up a backup running back. Someone who could fall into touches if the starter in that backfield gets injured.
Chase Edmonds, Trevion Williams, somebody like that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe someone with a little more upside. I don't know if you saw this guy Keaton Mitchell for the Ravens.
Oh my gosh, yes. I think he's already on somebody's roster, but yeah.
Really?
Yeah, okay. I think there's guys that were on him even when he was still on IR.
Okay. We have a couple savvy players in the league. They scoop up people.
Not in our league.
not in your league. In your league, Keaton Mitchell was drafted in the 4th round.
Yes, believe it or not. Well, they know I'm friends with you and JJ, so they've all gotten hip to it. So
yeah, no, that's really funny. The not in my league phenomenon has become one of my favorite things online.
Right, when you guys say this guy.
Yeah, but I mean, but it's actually.
Wait, what's the joke? Please, can you explain it? Because I'm not hip.
So the joke is this: we will recommend, and when I say we, I mean me and like everybody else in the fantasy industry will recommend like an obscure player who is rostered in like seriously like 1 or 2% of leagues, right? And their only reaction from that recommendation is dozens of people saying, "Hold up, you're suggesting that guy? In my league, I had to draft that guy in the 10th round."
Yeah, exactly. Not in my league.
Like we're too good. We already got him.
It's the
I'm sorry. I didn't know you were in the savviest, deepest fantasy in the history of humankind.
Well, excuse me.
So it's kind of become like especially on Living the Stream, which is JJ, who was our guest in the second episode, and Denny's podcast. Living the Stream is about streaming quarterbacks, tight ends, defenses, and often you guys suggest somebody who's available in only like 1% of Yahoo leagues, and the comments will be, "Not in my league. He's not available."
Well,
but Keaton Mitchell, I'm sure, is not available. But he looked
not in my league.
He looked as advertised, like a real speedster who could help out the Ravens.
Absolutely.
Not that they need any help. Oh my gosh, so frustrating. Sorry, side complaint, rant.
Please.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson is the worst quarterback to roster in fantasy.
Yeah.
Like, you just expect him to be so good. He has all that opportunity, and he just doesn't. I mean, he doesn't run in the ball, doesn't run in touchdowns.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, they rarely throw touchdowns on that team.
That's actually
He's
true.
Frustrated.
And he's mostly scampering for first downs, and then
you know what the issue is, guys, with Lamar is that unlike Josh Allen on those RPOs inside the 10-yard line, Lamar never keeps the ball. Like he hands it off almost every single time, and that means Gus Edwards gets a bunch of cheap touchdowns. It drives me insane. And
totally.
And Lamar doesn't get those touchdowns. And on a low volume passing day like he had against the Seahawks yesterday, you need those rushing scores, and he didn't get them.
No, he comes. I mean, I don't even know what he scored in standard scoring. Like, I don't know. Did he top 20 points? I don't know if he did.
I don't think so.
No.
Oh, it's so frustrating. Sorry.
I mean, you can complain about that, but you did have CJ Stroud in another league. So
I did.
You're doing just fine.
Man.
That was super fun.
Whew.
Do you have Stroud anywhere?
I do. Well, I was like, forced.
Not in your league.
Yeah, well, I was forced into playing him because I lost Anthony Richardson on one team, and so I was like, gosh, like I don't know who to get. I'm just gonna pick up Stroud, hope for the best. This was several weeks ago, so I picked up Stroud. He goes crazy yesterday. I actually on DraftKings yesterday, I had a lineup with Stroud, Schultz, and Tank Dell.
Wow.
But guys, I was agonizing over who to run it back with. So like when you have a stack like that,
right?
You if you're correct and that team's scoring a lot of points, then the other team, the Bucks, are going to have to try to score a lot of points too, right? So I was agonizing between Mike Evans or Rashad White. Those are who am I going to use? I picked Evans. Obviously, White was the answer.
He certainly was. Rashad White. My goodness. Yeah. Yeah, I'll do another victory lap on that guy. I mean, no one was taking him, and
yeah, that was your guy. That was your pick.
Yeah, he was my
That's a good pick.
I remember reading something that JJ had. He had made a comp to David Johnson for Rashad White, just in body, and also that Bruce Arians was responsible for kind of scouting both those guys. And I was like, like I wonder if that. I don't expect them to be David Johnson, but if it's in the
You know what he is, Tom. He's Alvin Kamara light.
He's Alvin Kamara light. That's a good. Yeah, he really is. I mean, are they? You wonder about guys like that can do that if the offense is going to be smart enough to utilize that that profile.
Right. Also, speaking of Alvin Kamara, do you guys have Taysom Hill on your team by any chance?
Yeah,
Tom does.
Yeah. Oh yeah. How's that? Are you starting him?
I did. I've been starting him because I picked up Ferguson. I had Njoku. Njoku kind of like flattened out, and then I grabbed Ferguson. He did great, and then he went on bye. So then I just plugged in Taysom Hill, and I haven't replaced him yet. But I've been losing in Scott Fishbowl recently because I kept not putting in Taysom Hill. I kept putting in, which is so dumb. It's like a tight end premium thing, and so I finally put him back in.
Yeah,
he's a tight end who's not a tight end. I mean, it's genius.
Denny has a very funny bit about Taysom Hill, ongoing. You know how they call like certain plays of certain players? It'll be a package. That'll be So Denny often refers to Taysom Hill as having a very, what do you call it?
His package is expanding.
It certainly is.
And his package is reaching dangerous levels size wise.
My package is expanding. Just having him on my team.
But it's funny because like the announcers on Saints games will use that terminology without a hint of sarcasm. So they'll be like, oh man, they brought Taysom's package out to play today.
They really brought it out. They're having fun with that.
I'm like, come on, guys, come on.
Yeah. The defense opened up a really big hole, and
right. And Taysom's package.
Yeah, Taysom's package has expanded beyond all all previous known packages.
He is expanding physically. I feel he's expanding too. He looks twice as big as he did last season, right?
Doesn't he
look? He's jacked.
He's a big dude.
He is big,
and he does something. I'm always like, why don't running backs do that at the goal line, where he gets the ball and he just kind of
waits and
watches, and then just runs through the opening.
Yeah,
exactly. Le'Veon Bell used to do that. You remember?
Yes.
Oh yeah, so patient.
Yeah, used to love that. Used to love watching that. Used to love watching Arian Foster just kind of run up behind offensive linemen and just kind of
like push them and go.
Yeah.
I love that.
Crazy.
Yeah. That's the kind of running back
I noticed that too about Taysom. He takes that snap at the goal line, right?
Yeah.
And he doesn't immediately just barrel into the line. Like he picks and chooses. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Here,
well, it's also part of his ruse too. Like, is he going to throw? Because he can throw. So there's a bit of a quarterback sneak to it.
That's true.
Good point.
So he does maybe throw them off a little bit with a pause.
Excellent point.
That's a good point.
But his package is
it's bigger and bigger.
It's bigger. It's expanding
infinitely.
Yeah. I'm scared, honestly.
Do you guys have any more questions for Denny about your team? Looking forward.
The Taysom Hills have eyes.
Wow.
No, we're good. We're gonna win the whole thing. No, I mean any court. I mean, obviously in our league, all the good players are taken. But if you have any like quarterback streamers, maybe for this week or coming up,
can we get a little preview on? Week 10.
I had that and then I lost it. And now I'm pulling it
dial
back
it up. Get off Twitter first.
Are we getting you on a good day, or are you busy on Mondays?
Mondays are not too bad, honestly. Sundays are insane, and then Tuesdays and Wednesdays are really quite difficult. But Mondays are okay.
Are you in an office, or are you like just in your home office?
I'm at home.
Okay.
But they're sending me, for some reason, they're sending me to New York to do the fantasy football happy hour show this coming Friday.
Oh, nice.
Dude,
congrats.
Awesome. I'd love to hang with you there. We're going to be in LA. I mean, Denny came out here for the Super Bowl one time. Yeah. We got to hang during the Super Bowl. That was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's great that they're sending you out.
Are we all going to the Super Bowl this year? We should.
Yeah, let's go to the Super Bowl.
Where is
Bernie
the Super
Bowl? Vegas.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Denny, will they send you to the Super Bowl this time?
They've sent me to 2 straight, so maybe.
Boom.
All right.
Yeah.
Look out, Vegas.
Well,
cut to Vegas.
Yeah. It looks like for streaming options, Baker Mayfield looks like a legit option against the Titans. I don't know if he's available.
I like that. I think he is. Yeah.
He is available.
Yeah,
because I picked him up and dropped him.
Yeah, if you have Lawrence, he plays.
Yeah, are you going Baker over Lawrence or no? I mean,
well, I think I probably would. I mean, Lawrence plays the Niners, but the Niners haven't been very good against the pass recently. So
okay,
true.
And also the Jags are the sixth heaviest passing team. I'm sorry,
right.
sixth pass heaviest team in the league right now. So
gotcha.
Right.
So so Lawrence is good to hold on to.
I feel like I feel like his time's coming too. Like he just hasn't had that huge game, but I feel like it's on the he's on the verge. Yeah, coming off a bye. They're pass heavy. I just feel like he hasn't gotten there, but he might soon. So
yeah, that offense is improving definitely as a.
So Baker's a nice pickup. I feel like Baker just flings the ball any chance he gets. And,
and you could stack him with Evans.
Yeah,
and he's been good. He's been good, and the I know we just talked about Rachaad White, being good for fantasy. And in reality, I don't think he's been very good. And so the Bucs have had to turn into a rather pass first team, which is out of the blue. Really, I mean, it's not what I expected.
Right?
No, not at all.
Not with Baker there.
Yeah. And he's actually being a better quarterback. Probably this is his best. Is this his best season so far since maybe his first?
Since 2020.
Yeah, it feels like it, right?
He's certainly more accurate.
Feels like he's a little more mature too. Like just
what
bananas.
I always appreciate about Baker is that guy, he truly believes that he is an elite athlete. Like he plays like he thinks he's fast. And as a guy who is also not fast, I appreciate that.
It's in his mind. Yeah,
he's repping us mediocre guys.
I mean, he tries to do that RPO stuff where he takes off, and I'm like, Baker, you are the slowest dude on this field right now, and you're trying to outrun a safety. Like, don't try that, man. You're just a dad. Like,
he is like a dad guy. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. No. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what it is about him that has kept him alive this long.
Man.
Well, he that lost, confidence.
Yeah. He lost all his national TV ads, but got a starting job. So you got to feel good for him, I guess.
Yeah. It was like, can you have one, without the other? Can you be this like commercial star and have your just crappy career? And people are like, why am I watching Baker?
Yeah. They had to switch. Well, it was a good swap, I think, for him.
That was very weird. Yeah. Well, don't you guys think that? I feel like that was very weird that a guy who basically had no success in the NFL had several national ad campaigns based around him. How did this?
I know it is funny because you see like somebody like an elite athlete, like Saquon Barkley or Lamar, and he's doing like the bad Subway ad or something. Not specifically, but like you're always like, why are they doing this commercial? Like it's so bizarre.
I mean, that's why Baker got the job in the commercials, because he's somewhat charismatic. Right. He could carry those bits about like being in the book club or like whatever it was. Like he lived at the stadium. That was that whole.
Yes, that was good actually. I really liked that.
And he wasn't bad.
He's a character. Funny. He had the headband. He did the flag thing at Ohio. Like he's like the main. He's a character.
So they were kind of hoping that his football trajectory would stay high while they ran these ads, but it didn't.
But I always felt like that was very hopeful. Betting
against
on the part of the corporations, like guys, like do you have anyone in your office watching the games? No one's checking it out.
No
one's like looking at EPA data to say like, I don't know if we can invest like $180 million ad campaign on Baker Mayfield.
I think we created a job, a sports liaison for corporations.
Like a stat nerd. Yes,
I'll do it.
That's
Denny, you're perfect.
Feels like it's high paid and low work.
Yes, it does.
It's great.
Like basically, like what if Nationwide wants to feature Brock Purdy in a $500 million ad campaign, and I would say no. I'd say you can't do it.
Whoa. Right. Well, what if you put forward somebody who you're like, look, Garrett Wilson is going to be just like soaring star, but when he reads copy, he reads it like he's, just like mono, whatever.
All you need is you need a coach then. Just an acting coach. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah, just an acting coach. Oh, so there we go.
Wait, and then that's where we bring you in.
Acting coach.
All right, I think we have a new company.
Stats guy. Look, we've been hired.
Tom, I know you wanted to talk about how big of a curmudgeon he is because we wanted to match him up with Bernie.
Oh my gosh, so yes, that's a good point.
Can we go touch on that a little bit because I love that fact about Denny.
Denny, you said something recently. You said a term that you were reflexively contrarian.
Yeah. Since
you were young. Around the time that you were inventing LeBron James. You said something like, and we don't have to get into all these takes, but one of them was about Toy Story and how kids thought it was great, and I think you reflexively said, no, I don't like that.
That's right. Yes, that's exactly right, Tom. And I know it probably makes me an asshole. Like I do understand that. I'm not acting.
Why would you do it then?
Like this makes me cool. But it is a reflex. It is a reflex, and I've had it forever. So I grew up in a household they were my dad, my mom, everybody in my family, diehard Washington football fans. I mean, we would have a party basically every Sunday or Monday night around the game, And so I was born and bred to be a Washington fan.
Sure.
And when it was time, when I got old enough to actually start watching the games and taking an interest, I rejected that. I said, no, I'm not going to be a Washington fan. You can't tell me what to do. Just because I was born in Maryland doesn't mean I have to root for Washington. So I became a Dolphins fan. Okay. Yeah, because guys, I like the colors.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's okay. All right. But did you get pushed toward your favorite color team, uniform team, because you just couldn't go with the majority?
I think it's in his blood to be contrarian.
I couldn't deal. I guess I couldn't deal with just rooting for Washington with everybody else. And to my dad's credit, I don't know if I would have been able to deal with that. I think I would have handled it a lot more poorly than he did.
I can't imagine. I have a 3-year-old right now, and I can't imagine him growing up and being like, you know what, the Giants stink. I mean, they do, but and I'm going to root for the Eagles. Like my head would explode. Yeah,
exactly.
My son did that to me. Sorry to cut you off, but my son did do that to me when I'm a diehard Red Sox fan, and I was watching the Red Sox, and I said, Finn, are you a Red Sox fan? He said, who are they playing? I said, the Cleveland Indians, and he said, well, I'm a Cleveland fan. It was brutal. Wait, sorry, I cut you off, Denny.
Well, yeah, it's not like I rooted for the Cowboys or anything,
Right.
I think that would have been a different thing. But like I said, to my dad's credit, he became like a secondary Miami fan, and we would watch Dolphins. I basically imbued Dolphins games with meaning. Right? They truly meant nothing to me. I had never even been to Florida until I was like a teenager. So I had no connection to them except for I like the colors, and I ended up being obsessed with Dan Marino.
I was going to say Dan Marino must have been a big factor. Yeah. Well,
and,
you know what that means
for good reason.
Your dad loves you.
That's right. That is what that means. And so looking back, I really appreciate the fact that he became a diehard Marino guy. We rooted for them together, and of course, like Hootie from Hootie and the Blowfish, they made us cry throughout the 90s.
Yeah, there you go.
Can we cut to that song right now? I think it was
wow, you even have a musician with pop songs to go along with your misery? That's fantastic.
A Hootie quote.
When I first heard that song and he said and Hootie says the Dolphins made me cry.
Yeah.
I thought to myself, there's no way. He cannot be talking about the actual Miami Dolphins.
I know, it must have been like swimming with the Dolphins, right?
This guy.
Yeah, right. I thought it was like a David Bowie like Dolphins reference in the song Heroes.
Right.
You would never think it was sports. You would think it was like dolphins being trapped in tuna fish nets, right? That makes me cry.
He's talking about Marino losing the AFC Championship in 1991.
Yeah, but then you see Hootie and they're all wearing baseball caps and stuff. Yeah. And you're like, oh yeah, it's probably the Dolphins.
Yeah, they're sportos. Bernie, are you a contrarian? If you see people liking something, do you go the opposite way?
It depends on what they like,
What, vegetables?
I'm going to answer this yes.
Vegetables or fish or...
healthy food?
Yeah, healthy food. Yeah.
Do you like dancing? Lots of people like dancing. Do you like dancing?
Don't like dancing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Denny, do you like dancing?
No, not particularly. But I did. There was a time, I think in my 20s, my early 20s, that I was like, I got to dance more. Like when I go out with my friends, and I can't.
You just decided that.
Yeah, I can't be a wallflower all the time. Like I got to get out there and I got to dance. As bad as I am, I got to dance. And beer helped. But
what was the first step? What was the first step besides getting a little lubricated with the beer? Would you actually study some moves,
Charleston?
I've never actually tried. Like I've never invested in it. But here's the thing: my wife has always been such a good dancer that she carries me.
Oh yeah, girls can dance, guys cannot dance. I think that's kind of just blanket.
Well, I don't do dancing now because of it's now, but back in my younger days, I danced.
Would you?
Sure.
Would you learn the current dances of the day?
Well, it wasn't much. You're just moving around. It was the beginning of rock and roll,
Okay.
Would you spin girls around and flip them up in the air?
Oh, yeah. Under my legs, up on the ceiling.
Wow. This package was expanding.
Yeah.
Denny, this podcast, we also do talk about, dads and sports and stuff.
Yeah.
And did you, besides the sharing the Dolphins thing, which I think is a
nice.
brilliant,
I love that,
brilliant image. Was there other stuff about you and your dad, or you and your son? Like I know Xavier is into sports now too.
Xavier is not. He's 10 and he will watch some sports with me, but I don't think he has the attention span quite yet to actually watch a game. And he plays sports, but he's not into pro sports or even college sports. So I'm still waiting for that. Maybe it won't happen. I guess I'll just have to deal with that if it comes. But yeah, my dad was always supportive of the sports thing, but also never pushed it hard. Like I played every sport growing up, but he was never choose one, choose one and get really good at it. He was try them all. Like basically he would say in certain terms, you're not going to be a pro athlete. Just let's get real.
No one told Baker Mayfield that.
He wasn't open. He was a realist. Yeah.
That's really sweet.
Yeah.
Does he play?
Sorry, go ahead.
No. He introduced you to what?
He introduced me to golf. So for business purposes, you got to be able to play golf. There you go. To close business deals when you're older.
Wow, he's pragmatic as hell.
And I was like, oh, okay. I ended up being just completely obsessed with golf. It was like my whole life from the time I was 18 to 22 years old.
Wow.
And little did he know that you would be into Wii golf as much as you are.
I'm so into Wii golf. Yeah.
You can watch Denny playing Wii golf online if you want.
Really?
Often, right?
I used to do it a lot more, but yeah, I do like playing for the folks. It is fun.
You got really good at it.
I did. I got ridiculously good at it. I'll be honest.
See, your dad was wrong. You were a pro.
I am.
But he was right about golf helping you in the business world.
Yeah.
If you can call it.
Kind of. I will say when I get grouped up with a 2 or 3 random guys at the course, and then but by I don't know if you guys play, but if by the 5th or 6th hole, that's when you start talking about what do you do for a living?
Yep.
Right.
And so I'll be like, I work for NBC Sports doing fantasy football stuff, and they're like, okay, here's my team. They'll hold up they're fun. Here's what do I do with my team?
Yeah, it takes over. Yeah.
Yes, and that.
But have you ever felt like at any point in your professional career that knowing how to play golf did help you, like your dad had advised?
Yeah, actually, yes. There were a few times where people way above me in previous jobs, and in the food chain would say, "Hey, you want to go play?" And I would be like, yeah, let's play. And, I'm not saying I'm good. I'm definitely not really good anymore, but I was good compared to them. And that's what was important. And so they were impressed and, so it started a whole thing, and it definitely paid off, I think.
It helps. I think so. I think that if you can play golf and you're in that situation, it's better to not embarrass yourself.
Yeah.
It is, yeah, and it's a long day of embarrassment if you can't. So yeah, it's 4 hours of terrible.
Yes.
So it's nice if you could hit the ball. Yeah,
that's true. It's a long day. Thank you so much, Denny. Where can everyone find you
Sure.
And read your stuff. You've written some of my favorite stuff, not
Thanks.
just about sports. You also write great stuff about people, about bad faith, about all kinds of different, and I don't mean religious faith. I mean bad faith actors, right? I mean really great takes in the world outside of sports.
Yes,
as
it's
well.
not just sports related, but just interesting and entertaining stuff, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. So where are you?
Yeah. You can find all my football related stuff on NBCSports.com. I have my own little personal blog on the side called Bad Faith Times, if you'd like to check that out. And doing Living the Stream on Tuesdays. We're live on YouTube in the afternoon. And then doing the Roto World Football Show twice a week with Pat Doherty and Kyle Dvorak at NBC.
Sounds great. Everyone, please tune into that stuff. I have always been a fan of Living the Stream from way back, and it has certainly helped me as a fantasy football player. If that's interesting to our listener, check it out.
Yeah, if you want to get better, check these guys out. That's for sure.
All right,
Thanks,
guys.
Denny.
Thank
Good
you.
to see you, man. All right, buddy.
Nice meeting you, Denny. Be good.
All right, nice
See
meeting
you
you
today.
guys.